It is a period of Star Wars mania, as new movies, comic books, novels, and TV shows populate the system. Fueled by their love and passion for the galaxy far, far away, two exceptional geeks tap into hundreds of holocrons in order to bring you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. Come and join them as they go inside the Force.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Force. I am David Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And we're not even going to waste a second. We are back as we are every week, but we have a very, very special guest. This is a special edition episode of Inside the Force. Let's bring him in. We got the voice himself of Yoda from the Clone Wars, Tom Kane. Now, according, obviously everybody, I think everybody knows that you've been in this business a very, very, very long time. Just kind of tell us exactly where you are from and how did you get into this business?
Well, I grew up in a suburb of Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas, and back 30-some years ago when I started actually doing voiceover work for money, it didn't occur to me that people got paid for this. I just thought that it was someone at the TV station that was doing, the voiceovers. And actually, most local commercials, that is exactly what was happening. It was some, usually a local disc jockey, which is why most local spots back then, and still today, all sound exactly the same. This Sunday, be there, And I was a good mimic, from the time I was a little kid, and I could do, even as a teenager, I could do fairly decent dialects and characters and stuff. I just thought it'd be fun to hear myself on TV. So I started calling local advertisers that had particularly bad, commercials and offering my services. And, make a long story short, I got taken up by one. And a week later, I got hired to do 5 Screen Actors Guild commercials. And then it just kept going. So now by the time I got out of high school, I'd probably done 80, 100 spots. And by the time I got out of college, I'd done 200 or 300. And but they were all local stuff, and
Right.
But so I knew by then I wanted to do cartoons because, by the time I got out of college, I did learn, in fact, that all the cartoon business was in Hollywood, and I did learn that Hollywood was part of Los Angeles and not some city near Sacramento. And but yeah, so I went out there in the late '80s and completely failed at it. I landed. Every part of voiceover work you could ask for. I was doing commercials and national network commercials and network promos and movie trailers, and but I just could not get arrested doing cartoons. And I'd almost given up on it, and then boom, I landed the Wild Thornberrys as Darwin, and then that led to some other thing. I got the Professor Utonium as the Powerpuff Girls, and just kept on going. So,
wow.
So, how much training do you do? Do you still do training at all? How much training goes into that?
I don't now and never have. I get people that ask me about that all the time, and I'm like, I'm the wrong person to ask because I've never practiced a voice in my life. I'm very lazy about that. If I can do it, I do it, and if I can't, I'm honest enough to just say it's not my thing, and I'll recommend somebody I know that is good at that particular voice. So. And it's I've just been really lucky that the things I can do have been of interest to the casting directors.
Wow, sounds like you were really born for it. So starting off, I assume you had auditions. Can you explain and just describe to our viewers what that audition process entailed, and if you still do any auditions of any sort for voice acting jobs?
Oh yeah, I audition all the time. I audition every day I probably do. I audition for at least 10 or 12 projects a day.
Wow.
Everybody does, really. I mean, you can't, the only, I really can't think of anybody that doesn't audition. I mean, even the movie trailer guys that make, several $1 million a year, they still have scripts that get sent to them and they record the thing and it gets played for the executives at Disney or Paramount or Sony or whatever, and they pick from that. So, it just unless you're someone that is a celebrity,
and
your voice, getting hired because you're a celebrity,
Right.
then you don't have to audition. But yeah, I mean, cartoons especially. I mean, it doesn't matter how big a cartoon guy you are. If you're a working voiceover guy and not a celebrity, then Jim Cummings still auditions, and and so does Tom Kane and Billy West, and we all do. So,
wow. So, was going to audition for a cartoon or perhaps an animated film? Are there a lot of similarities to auditioning for like a live action feature film, or is it?
Well, yes and no. Obviously with live action, and if you're an unknown, if you're just a run-of-the-mill actor and you're not being hired because you're already a celebrity, then they still have. There's all kinds of things that they get taken into account: your height, your weight, your look, your all that stuff, which doesn't matter at all with voiceover work, which is one of the things that's just amazingly wonderful about voiceover work. I mean, I always use the example of at one point, Fred Flintstone is this big, heavy-set guy. Barney, hey, get your hands off my fruity pebbles, And Barney Rubble is his short, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, sidekick. He's like, hey, Fred, how you doing? And the crack up is at one point, Barney Rubble was being played by Kevin Michael Richardson, who's Jabba the Hutt. He's a 5'10", 400-pound bald black guy who looks like Morpheus in a black trench coat. And Fred Flintstone was James Arnold Taylor, who's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And if you know James, he's 5'2" and weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. So you've got this giant black guy going, "Hey, Fred," and you've got this little tiny white guy going, "Barney." And it just, you watch this going, okay, this is really weird. But it's just absolutely, voiceover work was probably the first area in Hollywood that really was completely desegregated, It got very apparent very quickly that, no one mattered how tall you were, short you were, black, white, purple. If you got the voice, they'd hire you. So, but the process is very similar. It's what they'll do is if it's a new cartoon, they'll provide your agent with sketches of the character and a description. For instance, Mr. Harriman on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, was a large bunny rabbit with a top hat and a monocle and a bushy mustache, and they said they wanted him a sort of blustery British voice. And so in my head, I just pulled out, sort of the British colonel, from World War II movies. It's like, oh, good heavens, the power of the empire, and they loved it and booked me. So, it's really, a lot of it is looking at the character and going, well, what would people expect that to sound like? So, and it is funny because, like I said, a lot. There's not original bone in my body. I grew up a child of the television rerun era, and so I lift from the very best. I learned my Scottish accent from Scotty on Star Trek, and my French accent from LeBeau on Hogan's Heroes, and and it's really weird because now I've replaced some of these people because the original ones have gotten older and passed on. So, I've been Scotty for Star Trek video games, and it's just very, tucked out of McCoy, what kind of got past what 9 or so blow? It's just very weird things that I find myself doing.
So in the recording process now, when you are doing a television show or a movie, how often are you actually in the same room with the other actors that are doing the dialogues, or are you?
Well, most of the time that is the way they prefer to do it. If you've got a cast that is mostly or completely regular voiceover folks, meaning non-celebs, then it's pretty easy to get everybody in the same room at the same time. And a typical session, they'll book everybody for 4 hours. So you'll either be doing a 9 to 1 or a 2 to 6 session, and it usually doesn't take that long. I mean, rarely do you actually go 4 hours. But the more on-camera celebrity types you have, the harder it is to get everybody's schedules lined up. So, if there's a couple leads that are celebs, then they really will pretty much bring people in just on their own to record their own lines separately.
Right.
If that's not the case, then everyone gets in the room, and it's just like an old radio drama. In the 30s, we all just have a bunch of mics and we sit around and we have our own scripts, and we are reading it cold. I mean, people have this image of us getting scripts, sent to our homes, and that will happen with feature films, but not regular cartoon episodes.
Wow.
But me, I don't live in L.A. anymore, so I moved back to the Midwest. 8 years ago, and the technology has evolved to the point where I can sit and talk here, and they can record it live in Los Angeles or Tokyo, for that matter, and it sounds exactly like I'm there.
Absolutely.
So, for us, it was just family reasons. I got a baseball team of kids, and they didn't get to see their relatives very often, so we thought it was more important to do that than worry about what I might or might not miss out on. So, and it's been a great move. But my animation work has declined. I mean, they still kind of want everybody in the same room.
Right.
So, I'm not doing as much of that as I used to. But overall, though, I'm working more than I ever have. So you hear me, here and there still every day somewhere. So.
Awesome.
So, in the entire span of your very dynamic career, what would you say has been some of your favorite characters to voice, or just jobs in general to be a part that you've been a part of?
Well, Yoda is obviously my favorite character, because I'm a Star Wars nutcase, and
yes.
After that, it would probably be Professor Utonium, because he's a doofy dad like I am, but it's everything has got its own pleasure and its own things you find, as you do the character that you kind of like to grab onto, is kind of make it your own. But I'd say Yoda and Professor Utonium are a couple of my favorites.
All right. So, speaking of Star Wars, going through your career, at what point did you start doing voice work for Star Wars? Because it's been way before Clone Wars. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, my very first. Well, I don't know what to call it. I guess animated character was a game. I started doing games for Lucas Arts, I think, before it was even called Lucas Arts. The very first one they did was not a Star Wars property. It was called The Dig, and that was back when a game came on 8 floppy disks that were the size of they were each the size of a cafeteria tray, the graphics were ridiculously bad, but they started using me regularly for games, Star Wars games, pretty quickly, because they could tell, they knew I was a Star Wars nut after I told them so, and they would start using me for just miscellaneous things like TIE Fighter Pilot Number 2, and but I was a good mimic, and they, they'd hear me goofing around doing Akbar or Tarkin or something, and as those parts came up where they needed somebody, they would say, "Here, give this a shot," and I'd do, the forest moon of Endor will be in range, and you would prefer another target, a military target, to name the system. And, so that they would start bringing me in for more iconic roles. And that just kept going. I mean, that's how I got Yoda. I didn't really audition for Yoda. At least I didn't know I was. Frank Oz was off shooting a movie. And, once you become a Academy Award-nominated director, you don't go back to being a voiceover guy for George. And I was just there doing something else, and they heard me goofing around reading some Yoda stuff, and I didn't know that Frank was unavailable, so they recorded it, and Dara, who was the lead guy at LucasArts at that time, took it up and played it for George, and he went, "Yeah, he's good. Use him." Something close to that, and I've been Yoda since. So that was, 15, 18 years ago or more. And as Frank slowly retired, I became everything. So
now that actually started in the game business? Yoda?
The first stuff I started doing was games, and then toys and commercials, and then things at the Disney parks and. And then the TV series, and now pretty much everything. So
yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of rewind a little bit. So nearly, I guess, about a year and a half ago, I wanted to kind of get your opinions on actually the purchase of Lucasfilm, the Disney purchase. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I thought that was a good idea long before it ever happened. As somebody who has worked with Lucasfilm, LucasArts, and Disney in half a dozen different capacities, I got to get to know some of the executives. Not the big ones, it's big shots, but but some of the mid-level folks and the attitudes they had toward the fans, the Disney fans and the Star Wars fans, and those that are both. And it just really seemed like a natural fit. One day I was, about a year before they actually announced the thing, I was having lunch with a couple of the Disney folks, and someone from Lucasfilm was there, who shall remain nameless. And I said that. We were just sitting at the table, and I said, so what do you think's going to happen with all this? Because George is going to sell this thing eventually. And
yeah.
I said, it'd be ridiculous to sell it to anyone else. I said, is Disney considering talking to him someday about buying this thing? Because that would be just the perfect fit. And in retrospect, as soon as I heard it, I remembered this conversation because there was they just almost panic-stricken look. And they were like staring at each other. They were these 3 or 4 people, and I could tell now that I look back on it, they were all looking at each other going, okay, does he know?
Does he know? Right.
Did someone tell him at Lucasfilm, or is he just lucky guess? Or should we say so? And they all were just like, I don't know. It's a great idea. I don't know. And at that point, someone said, we got to go get ready for the parade there at Disney World. But looking back on it, obviously it was only a year before, so I'm sure they were long in negotiations by then, and it was probably already pretty much a done deal. So I just laughed when I heard it. I said, "Oh yeah, that was obviously coming down the pike, and I just didn't realize it." But
that is great.
I think I tried to reassure the fans. I would get, because there was a percentage of people that were just beside themselves, that just somehow that Disney was going to ruin Star Wars. And I'm like, yeah, they've really ruined the Marvel stuff, haven't they?
Exactly.
They pretty much ruined the Avengers movies, didn't they? I'm like, come on, look at what they've done with the stuff they've bought with Marvel and stuff. It's been ridiculously good. Thor really sucked.
Right.
So I think the fans, once I pointed that out, a lot of them kind of went, that slap your forehead thing. Oh yeah, they did buy Marvel, didn't they? Oh yeah. And so they're done. And these are dumb people. They're not going to spend $4.5 billion on something so that they don't make any money.
No, absolutely.
And the only way they're going to make any money is if they make something people want to see. So
Now, I'm glad you feel like that, because I think we all kind of, me and Casey especially, we both feel the same way. Now, getting into the actual Clone Wars, as you said earlier, you necessarily don't always get the scripts beforehand. When you were doing the first season, did you only get Yoda's scripts?
Well, at the very beginning, they would actually FedEx me an entire script, and it had a big watermark across it with my name on it. So if it showed up on eBay, they would know where it came from. But the originally they would do that, and I because again this was a new thing for them. They really had not had a situation where they had a regular character that was not in the same city. Because in the recording studios, obviously they have the scripts there and they're numbered and they got your name on them, and when it's done, they collect them all and shred them.
Right.
So they kind of were stressing a bit about sending anything out electronically. They didn't want to email me anything. Because Lucas, again, I don't know if this actually became public information, but I won't give details, but they had a rather dramatic incident, I believe, during episode 2, I think it was, where somebody that worked there had absconded with a rough cut and was leaking or going to leak a large portion of it. So ever since then, they looked upon the internet as, potentially the devil's handiwork. And which is probably not far from true. But so they would send me these scripts, and then inside there was a return FedEx to put the script in and send it back. And this went on, probably for 4 or 5 episodes. And I kept saying, I finally said, why don't you just email me the script? And they're like, well, we don't want to do that because we're afraid it'll get out. I'm like, guys, I've got the script. I've got it. And I also have this thing called a copier.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could just make 100 copies, couldn't I? And you could just hear the silence. And they're like, yeah, that's true. So after that, they started just sending me the scripts via email. I think for a few times they sent me just my pages only,
Right.
and then they finally said this is a pain in the butt, and but they would pass. I don't know if this is common, but they started passwording the things that, and I think you could only open it for a certain period of time, and then the password wouldn't work. I mean, it was complicated, but it worked. So the security was good, but I don't blame them. I wouldn't want any of that out.
So at what point, was it always from the beginning that you were going to be the announcer in the beginning?
Yeah, that is one of the things I did audition for. I didn't have to audition for Yoda, but the narrator, George, that came straight from him. He wanted something that sounded like the old Western serials,
Right.
That he watched, which is what Star Wars was.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that was the direction, and that for me that was a no-brainer because I do a lot of that. Tom Hanks hired me to be the Edward R. Murrow in the World War II museum film, and I always joke that I was born in the wrong era because I really do a pretty good as the Nazi juggernaut rolls across Western Europe, America's boys in blue are there, rising into the skies above London with a hearty Heil No to Hitler's Luftwaffe. So I've always thought that I would have been a big star back in the day.
That's great.
But so I just went in and did that, and that they booked me. But and I was like everybody else. I was not everybody. George disagreed with me, but like a lot of people, I was convinced that was a bad idea. I did it and I heard it and I thought that's just going to be weird, because I was like everybody else. And when it opened in theaters, I just kind of was rolling my eyes like everyone going, "Oh, what are we doing? Where's the crawl?"
Right.
Where's
right.
it was everything about it was wrong. And but then as soon as I saw it on TV and everybody else kind of agreed after a few episodes, like, wow, that's terrific. Because it gives you a little recap, what's happened,
Absolutely.
what's going to happen, gives you a little tease. And kids can't read the crawl.
True.
Wow.
And George, of course, being smarter than a lot of us ever give him credit for, well, I did, but he wasn't a dummy. The guy's not dumb. He's like, guys, that crawl takes 3 minutes. Right. We don't have 3 minutes to recap or tell, give background. Have the narrator talk for 15 seconds.
That's true.
And then the 8-year-olds watching, which is, the group we want to get, because we got the older guys like Tom Kane. We got him. He's hooked.
Yes.
We want Tom's kids and his well, I don't have any grandkids. I'll knock on something, please, God. But, so and it worked brilliantly. There's so many fans that have come up to me. I cannot count the number of fans that have come up and gone, man, I hated that crawl. I mean, I hated that narrator. I hated it. And boy, I love it now.
Wow. So now, of course, we are, as we said at the beginning of the show, we're getting season 6, or I guess the final season of Clone Wars, March 7th.
Yeah.
But when that news broke last year, or a little over a year ago, that there will not be a season 6 on Cartoon Network, like, what were your initial reactions on hearing basically the cancellation of Clone Wars and no season 6 on? Well, TV?
Everybody was crushed. I mean, we including the people at Lucasfilm, and nobody knew. I mean, I'm sure there were people that knew Disney was buying the company,
Right.
but I don't think anybody foresaw that they were going to cancel stuff that quickly. Everyone assumed they would let the series sort of run its course. And
now
I'm
you
sure-
had
and they-
already worked on some of season 6, had you not?
we had season 6 completely finished as far as recording.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Now,
yeah.
now, in terms of actual finished episodes, there weren't any.
Right.
There have been various rumors about how we have the whole season sitting in the can and half of season 7. Well, no, that's not true. We may have. I think we were recording 7. I can't remember. We may have recorded 1 episode, and they had scripted, I think, all the way to season 8, or at least outlines for it. But and those, I'm sure will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so everybody was really blindsided by that and heartbroken and sort of disbelieving. Like, what? Is this a joke? Are they going to come back a month from now and say, "Oh, never mind"? But so yeah, there really wasn't. It wasn't a ploy. They had no intention of finishing it. It was. They really lucked out. They, meaning the people that decided to cancel it, because that last episode of 5, where Ahsoka, goes off into the sunset, really did work as a final episode. The fans were not happy about it, but from a theatrical point of view, it worked.
It did.
And she, and it did explain what happened to her, because if she wasn't a Jedi, General Order 66 wouldn't have applied. She didn't have to get killed. You don't have to worry about what happened to her.
Absolutely.
You can assume she went off and lived her life and had a bunch of little, kids that look like her. And so, it did work. And that wasn't planned. I mean, I think there were a lot of people that were thinking, well, that was convenient, but it wasn't. It was just a happy accident.
So when did you actually find out that that Dave Filoni was actually going to finish?
Well, we knew Disney did much in reaction to the fans. They did sort of, look at what was in the process of being finished, and if they were to complete some of the episodes, which would be enough to make the fans kind of happy,
right?
And wouldn't be investing tons of money. I mean, because there was nowhere to run them. They're going, it's a business, and I'm sure they were looking. And I don't know this for a fact, obviously. I'm just assuming if you're talking about millions of dollars to do a season of a show like that, and at that point, where do you put it? They're not going to run 13 episodes or 20 episodes of a series just by itself on Disney XD. You can't block out a whole season's worth of a primetime hour for one season, and it just doesn't work. And so I think the original idea was probably to release it as bonus content on a DVD release, and all they were going to do was the Yoda arc and one other arc,
right?
And for a total of 6 or 7 episodes, and then at some point, somebody started talking to Netflix, or Netflix called them. I'm not sure what the chain of events was, but they sort of put their heads together and started swapping numbers. And someone went, we could make this work, and we, not only finish those 2 arcs, we could perhaps finish some more.
Right.
So I am not sure the final number. I think it's 13 or something.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they're definitely finishing considerably more than we thought was going to ever see the light of day. So we really are getting, thanks to the Netflix deal, more than we were ever going to.
Absolutely.
Well, I love it.
So speaking of, as you said, Yoda's arc in season 6, what can you tell us? Because judging from the trailer that we got about a week ago, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening with Yoda.
Yeah,
in this season.
the cool thing about the Yoda arc is, you get to see more of Yoda than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think Dave said there was more Yoda in these 4 episodes than all the Yoda combined.
Wow.
I mean, it's a couple of them are literally just Yoda. I mean, pretty much. So it just, there's more information about the Force, the source of the Force, the source of the dark side. There's just stuff there that, George would never have allowed years ago. But suddenly, he was like, excuse me, horse. I think what it was, and this is coming from Dave. He said, there was a lot of stuff that I think George wanted to get in stone.
Mm-hmm.
There was canon
Right.
about the backstory, and he used these episodes to do it.
Okay.
That's great. That's great. And speaking on that, actually, you bring up a good point. How much do you know of the expanding universe? Are you a fan of it at all?
Not nearly as much as most of the fans.
Right.
I was a bit of a purist. I was kind of one of those guys that the movies were pretty much my world as far as Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I've read a couple books, of course, and I'm familiar with a lot of it. And some of the stuff, I still think needs to be incorporated in future projects, and some of it will. Some of it is going to be. I can't tell you what or how much because I don't know, but I know that there is an ongoing discussion about the entire body of Star Wars work that they are sort of looking at from beginning to end. This started with George a couple years ago. They are looking at everything.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, what and George is kind of the final arbiter. He's okay, what is canon and what is not? What is part of the timeline and what isn't? And of course Disney now will have some say in that as well.
Right.
But I cannot imagine that there, just based on what I've heard, that there isn't at least a few things that might be lifted from the EU and put in somewhere, on the big or little screen. But I imagine we'll see something.
Now, speaking of projects that we know have been shelved, Casey and I had the fortunate experience of being at Celebration the last few times and seeing Star Wars detours.
Yes.
Now that is something you were involved in as well, right?
Yeah, I did a bunch of those. That was a ball. And that one was finished. I mean, we were, I think we were working on the second season already, and the first season was done. It was in the can and ready to go. So it's there somewhere. Someone's got a nice high res HD version of all of those sitting on a shelf someplace. So,
but I think
in the vault.
Yes, in the vault.
With along with the priceless master for the Star Wars Christmas special.
I got a VHS copy of that, actually.
But I felt so bad for Seth and Tom and all the guys that worked on that because they poured their hearts into that series and to have a yanked like that, I think must have really been heartbreaking. But
well, do you think there's any life possibly at all that we're going to see any of that?
Personally, I think someday, yes. Okay. I think it's too funny, it's too well done, and it's finished to ignore. And it is, they did it in HD, so it's ready to go. I can't imagine at some point the Disney people are going to be comfortable enough with things to poke fun at it. I think that's really probably again, it's a business, and if I was running, I think I might have done the same thing for a while and said, you know what, let's focus, let's shift the focus to Episode 7. Let's shift the focus to a new animated series that's ours. That's Disney, created, lock, stock, and barrel, and. I think from a business point of view, that all makes complete sense. And let's face it, it's got to be a business. If they don't run it as a business, there's no money to make any more. There's not going to be an episode 8 if they don't make episode 7 successful.
Yeah.
Right.
So, God bless the successful business model. I think I can't imagine at some point someone's going to say, hey, remember we've got that thing sitting somewhere. And it's fun. It's funnier than hell. So why, and someone will say, well, let me see a few episodes of that. And they'll laugh their butts off and go, well, this could be pretty good.
Yeah, and we did just for the little stuff that we saw at Celebration. It was just phenomenal.
Someone call Netflix again.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are, in fact, as you said, getting a new animated show later this year, Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. Now, is there anything that you can say about that show? Like perhaps any potential involvements? I mean, we understand secrecy. That's totally fine.
Well, I was involved in the original pitch with to get it sold to the big guys at Disney, because not only did they have to pass it through the Lucasfilm structure at that point, they also then had to go pitch the top couple people at Disney. So they needed people to help put that together. So I'm not really involved in the series yet. Dave says he's going to plug me in somewhere, but they're still, they've recorded a number of the first season and they're animating several of them, but they're not that far along that there's no chance of me being involved in it. But they really are kind of shifting to an entirely new cast because, again, it's a different show.
Right.
And they don't want it. It would be a little distracting to have, every other episode some character that they go, wait, I think that's Cad Bane.
Yeah, right.
Wait, isn't that sounds a lot like, Admiral Yularen. Because as talented as all of us are, at some point, our voices, you're going to start, recognizing us. So, Dave wanted, each character to be its own new thing. So, I'm sure me and James and Dee, will show up as a droid somewhere or something. But, I doubt any of us are going to have major starring roles. There might be one or two. I mean, how do you not hire Dee Baker for something? I don't know. Right. Anybody that ignores Corey Burton is crazy. Right. So, but yeah, at some point that might happen. But I think for the most part they're going to be using mostly new folks. And who knows? Yoda may show up. He's definitely around.
I was just about to say Yoda's still alive.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Yoda's alive, and Obi-Wan's on the run, and
yes,
and Ahsoka's doing who knows what out there. So, Darth Vader's busy running around, I think. So we've got there's all kinds of potential for some of the established characters to at least have cameos. So
yeah. And then shifting a little bit. Well, actually, real quick about the Rebels thing. Was that something actually in development before the Disney purchase, or is that something after that actually came out?
I don't think it was. I think. I mean, obviously, we had a series that was heading into season 7 as far as a production. And like I said, as far as I know, they had scripted even further than that, or started to. So, just any show has a lifespan that's limited. So they knew obviously that going, if we were lucky enough to get to season 8 or 9, at some point you're going to have to wrap it up somewhere.
Right.
So there had to have been some early discussions about, okay, what do we do next? And what time period do we talk about? So I'm sure a lot of that was in some kind of at least bouncing ideas around stages that they then said to Disney, well, here's what we might be able to do. We could do this, or we could do this and do this. And so, but a lot of it, they sort of said, geez, what do we do? Okay, well, Disney wants to see some concepts, so let's give them a couple.
That's great. So as a pure Star Wars fan, Tom, what are your expectations for this new set of live-action movies that we're getting?
Well, I'm just, gonna wet myself just to see Mark and Harrison and Carrie on screen again.
Oh yes.
I don't care how old they are. I don't care if you're using a freaking walker. I mean, by that I mean an Imperial walker.
I totally get it.
No, I've seen them all at various times over the last few years, as have a lot of the fans, and they're in fine shape, for their age, and I can imagine they're all working out like crazy people to present well, because they want to look good too, as much as we want them to look good. So, but I mean, I know I've got some word on where filming is and where things are. So there's still a lot of planning being going on, and there's some things that have been decided in terms of when and where, but we all know they're shooting a lot of it in the UK at the original stop place, and they're trying to do a lot of use the original elements, So But I'm like you guys. I want to see them on camera. And I doubt they're going to be. It's not going to be about them,
Right.
Because again, they've got to bring a new generation of people in. But yeah, I mean, I'm just I'm like you guys. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go see it 5 times.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, we really appreciate you checking in with us and letting us get a chance to chat with you and get our listeners to check out your talents and everything. We really appreciate
a pleasure it has been. Appreciate it, I do. Yes.
Love it. I do have to, as a fan, I do have to ask one question because this is real quick. This is just a debate that a lot of us on our network, podcast network here that we have, come up and talk about. But when someone comes to you and says, Tom, I've never seen the Star Wars movies, what order do I need to see them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3?
Oh man, it depends on the day. I'll give you a different answer because we really are. We're living that. We have 2 4-year-olds.
Right.
We got 2 4-year-old boys,
and I have a 4-year-old that I'm getting into.
And I'm going. And I was like going. Okay, my gut feeling was to let them see them the way I saw them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But my wife, on the other hand, was like, are you crazy? They have to go in the order that they were, chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, because, what happens to Anakin and Vader, that's not a secret anymore. That's not a surprise. That's not a,
that's true.
So now you got to focus on the linear story. And I was like, well, okay, that's a valid point, So so I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do. We did show them, episode 1, but they were too young to really understand what they were watching. So we kind of like, we'll wait another year. So maybe when they're 5, maybe next year we'll have to have this debate again. So. But if I'm really going to screw with them, what do I do? I'm going to take them to see episode 7 first?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
I've got to get them. I've got to get them caught up long before that. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, well, me and Casey plan on. We're trying to go back and watch actually all the Clone Wars stuff in chronological order as well, because it's been talked about that those actually weren't released in chronological. You can tell that some of them were out of sequence.
Well, for the most part, they were.
Right.
But the obviously the beginning was a little jumbled because Warner Brothers turned the first 3 episodes into that movie,
The film, yeah.
which was not. No one was really pleased with that one as much as we were with later efforts,
Right.
Because it was the first of everything. I mean, George even said as much at the premiere. He's like, we're all very proud of this, but it's a little rough, and we already know that things are getting better every season, because we were already working on the end of season 1, and it was already much better. I mean, it was the first writing, the first animating, the first voicing, the first everything.
Right.
And that wasn't a Lucasfilm thing. That wasn't their idea. That was Warner Brothers' idea. And to do that. So, and it was a great idea. I just wish they would have done it, with the Yoda arc, for instance,
Yeah, right.
Because if they, we got a lot when we watched it the other day up at Lucasfilm. I must have had 20 or 30 people that came up just sort of shaking their heads going, when you cut the commercial time out of it, that's a 90-minute movie exactly.
Wow.
And they were all just going, that was a movie. And I kind of agreed with them. I was like, yeah, you could put that in theaters. But
That's awesome.
but it's going to be on Netflix. So.
Yes.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, so everybody check out the Clone Wars March 7th
Absolutely.
on Netflix. Season not just season 6, the entire series.
The entire thing, and you can watch it in any order you want.
Yes.
As long as you watch it. So.
Absolutely. So again, Tom, we really, really appreciate it. And I think I speak for Casey by saying thank you for all your hard work on the series.
I just hope they decide they need Yoda again sometime somewhere,
Absolutely.
and they give me a call. That'd be great.
Absolutely. So we really appreciate it, Tom. Hopefully we catch up with you in the near future, maybe after you get on some other stuff, of course.
That'll be. I'll see you. They've got me scheduled to do a few conventions this year, so I'll see you around those things. So.
Awesome.
Yes,
Yep.
we will be there. So we appreciate it, Tom. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for taking your time out for this.
And the Force will be with you always. Yes.
Wow, that was awesome.
That was the coolest.
Tom Kane on Inside the Force. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Phenomenal guy. We actually met him. I got to tell a quick story. We actually met him in person.
Yes.
When we were in, and forgive me, we might have mentioned this like a while ago, but Celebration 5? Yeah, Celebration 5.
Yeah, the first one we went to.
It was, well, the first one you went to.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry.
I'd been to the other two before, the 3 and 4. Yeah. So 5 in Orlando, we're standing in line because George Lucas is getting interviewed by Jon Stewart in, not Green Lantern Jon Stewart, but Jon Stewart of
the Daily Show.
Daily Show. So we, it was Saturday morning. So this Friday night, we're outside camping out, and literally, it was 4 of us.
Early in the morning.
Oh, it was like, well, we got in line about 11 o'clock at night, and it was me, you, your buddy Adam, and Charles, and so we get in line. We're probably literally just under 100 people deep, probably, and we're standing out there just with our phones and.
Well, I think I was actually asleep. And I woke up.
Exactly. So about 3, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think, wasn't it? Because they had come out and brought us T-shirts, which is great. We got our own T-shirts with the orange Death Star, the citrus. So all of a sudden, people start standing up and looking over, just right around the corner, or kind of where we were. So we looked over, and sure enough, there's Tom Kane, there's James Arnold Taylor, and I think someone else was there too, but I can't remember.
I don't know if. D. Bradley Baker.
I think it was D. Bradley Baker, but they were basically in the hotel next to us.
Yeah.
And they said they're just kind of hanging out, and they saw this big crowd, so they came down and hung out with us. And what an awesome gesture, man! They came out and hung out, took pictures.
Yeah.
We actually got him to call. I forgot to mention at the time. We got him to call our buddy Hickman, and he left a message in the Yoda voice and everything. It was so cool. So we just he's a really good guy. Jason Arnold Taylor too is another great guy. James, I keep calling him Jason. James Arnold Taylor, sorry. But they're phenomenal guys, and it was such a good talk. Yeah. And actually, we got a convention next week coming in town that Tom is actually going to be attending. So hopefully we get to catch up with him in person and thank him in person and talk about what we see this weekend in the Clone Wars. So this has already been a great episode, but we're going to obviously continue on a little bit and do some news real fast. Case, what we got?
Well, not much really. I mean, I don't even know if there's been any like crazy rumors going around. But the coolest thing I remember seeing this past week, and actually we tweeted it from our Inside the Force Twitter handle, it was basically a picture of Carrie Fisher. I guess she was going out to dinner with some guy, and this is a very recent picture of her, where she looks fantastic. She looks way healthier, way more fit than she has been in years. And it's just a testament of showing that she is probably most likely involved in Star Wars. I mean, Tom Kane actually alluded to as much just then.
I know. I couldn't believe he actually name dropped all 3 of them.
Yeah, so she's most likely in. She's looking great. She's looking like Princess Leia. She's still Princess Leia.
Older Princess Leia.
Older Princess Leia, but she's beautiful.
Absolutely.
She's great. So that's really the only cool Star Wars thing that we've gotten this past week.
So, but obviously the biggest thing is this weekend, the release of the entire Clone Wars series, including the 13 brand new episodes of The Lost Mission season 6 of the Clone Wars on Netflix. So I feel very, very sorry for you if you don't have Netflix. But I am going to be enjoying that. I'm actually going out of town this weekend, which sucks. But I'm taking my iPad with me, so I'm going to watch it wherever I'm at, because I love the fact that I'm going to get basically a movie of that Yoda arc that he just said. That is insane. Awesome. Cannot wait. I might even have to, because that's the end of I think that's the last missions.
Clips that we have seen, it looks phenomenal. It looks like there's so much going on. Like what he says in regards to canon, that said like George Lucas actually had in mind.
Yes.
Concrete, origins of the Force.
Yes.
He is finally getting to tell in the show.
I love it. Yeah. Just so sad that they had 7 and 8 planned. I mean, I didn't want to say it during the interview, but I thought I had heard when we were at Celebration one point that they've got 10 seasons in mind.
Yeah.
I think Filoni said that they had 10 seasons. So man, it just sucks that we're not doing that. But hey, we're still getting Rebels, I'm sure it'll just be as good, if not better. But No, we really appreciate Tom taking his time and doing that. We've been planning this for a couple of weeks, and we've been biting our tongues. But now he's there, Tom Kane.
You guys are lucky.
On Inside the Force. So we'll finish up, of course, right now with our usual. We'll do some trivia.
Trivia.
Well, we are supposedly starting episode 2 month, which we will next week. So let's go ahead and do an episode 2 question.
Yeah.
But we will profile somebody from episode 2 next week, and as well as the rest of the March month. But also, let me just tell you that since there is a con coming in next weekend, hopefully we will get some more interviews.
Yeah.
We're going to maybe get some video interviews that will be on our YouTube channel.
Some Camera One stuff.
Yes, youtube.com/21 Network. Go there. You see all the stuff that we're going to get at the Comic-Con, Lexington Comic-Con, because not only is Tom Kane coming in, but Daniel Logan is coming in from the Clone Wars.
Several Star Wars
people that will be there. So we're going to try to talk to them and as well as some other people. So stay tuned for that this month. So jacked up for that. I just turned the page to tell me, pick one of these, Casey, 509 to 526. Pick a number.
Let's do 5. I want to say 501st, but it's too late.
Let's do it. Go back one page.
Oh,
501st.
Okay. I thought that was our.
No,
limit.
I was just saying that on that page.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, let's go 501st. What was Mas Amedus? You know Mas Amedus? Homeworld.
I think so.
A. Chagria, B. Camino, C. Champala, or D. Coruscant?
May I read the name? May I get
Yes.
in a sentence, please?
501st.
501st. Yes. I know the name, but I guess I actually can't remember who it is.
I think I know who it is, but I'm not 100%
idea,
sure.
But I'm not 100% either.
Mas Amedus.
I want to say
Homeworld.
Coruscant.
Okay, I was actually leaning towards Coruscant as well.
Yeah.
I was either going Coruscant or for some reason C sounds familiar, but
Champala. Yeah, that sounds familiar too. But are we thinking? Are we thinking the guy with the blue horn, like the blue bureaucrat guy?
yes, that's who I think it is.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yes,
Masamita. I'll look him up real quick. But go ahead. I'm going to
you're going
Coruscant.
D?
Coruscant. Yeah.
because I think I'm going to go C.
Okay.
So here's
Coruscant.
Here's D. Coruscant. No, it is
Are
C.
you freaking kidding me?
Champala.
This is stupid. This is really stupid.
C. Champala. For some
Twice
reason,
now.
I remember that name from somewhere. I don't know if I
Yeah.
read it. I can't remember that Homeworld.
Twice now.
Is
it's
it,
been
make
like-
sure that's the guy we're talking. I think that is the
Yeah.
guy we're talking about, though.
I think so too. Give me a second.
He is the bureaucrat or the aide to the chancellor.
Looks like a blue demon.
Yeah, exactly. So as he's looking that up, we are Inside the Force, of course, InsideTheForce.com. Check out all the episodes there. Follow us at Inside the Force.
Yes, that's him.
That's him, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So he's Champala.
Wait, go back to that real quick. Actually, what were all the options? Champala?
Coruscant, Camino, Champala, and then another one called Chagri.
Oh wait,
What? What's that say?
hold on. Okay, Champala. His species is Chagrian.
Okay, that's a species then.
Yeah.
They threw it in.
Okay. Homeworld is Champala.
They were tricking you.
Tricky.
If you knew, if
Yeah,
you had
if you
an
knew
idea. Yeah. Okay, so that's his species.
Species,
But he's
yeah.
from Champala.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, maybe we might profile him.
Yes,
That
Well,
is
let's
very possible.
do that.
Let's do that. Episode 2 next week. Come back and we'll talk about Masameda.
Mm-hmm.
But again, thank you to Tom Kane for hanging out with us for as long as he did. Really, really enjoyed talking to him. That was some great insight. Check out The Clone Wars coming out this weekend, March 7th on Netflix. And, of course, check us out the rest of this month as we get into episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Casey?
Nope.
Okay, for Casey Cooley.
Well, in honor of Tom Kane,
Around the survivors, a perimeter create.
Very good.
Episode 2.
And if you want another Star Wars quote, go check out Star Wars Quotes from a 4-Year-Old.
Good segue.
Thank you. On our YouTube channel, 21pro/21pro, my daughter Sam does Star Wars quotes every week. There's 4 of them up there. One is a Yoda quote last week, which he did do or do not. There is no try. So check that out. We just really appreciate everybody checking us out on Inside the Force. Tweet us, send us any questions you got, and we will answer them. All right. So, Case Cooley.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm David Cottingham. May the Force be with you.
This has been a production of the 21 Network. For more great podcasts, visit 21network.com. To view additional content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/21network. Follow us on Twitter at 21network for the latest news and updates. The 21 Network, for the fan and all of us.